I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Canon. We've been Disney fans our entire lives. And now, as childless adults, we're undertaking a journey through the media that shaped our lives.
Trying to find out if what made them special is still there.
We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
Hey, before we get into the main feature that we're going to be talking about, I do have a little bit of news that we have to get through. 2020 keeps on hitting us in the gut because we did lose Chadwick Boseman last week, and just a few days ago, Monday, was announced that Norm Spencer, who was the voice of Cyclops on X-Men the Animated Series, passed away at the age of 62.
Yeah, that one was kind of shocking to come, especially for us because we had just finished talking about the series. So.
Yeah, and again with the rumors of the show potentially returning, I guess there goes that.
Yeah, but his voice will always probably be what I hear when I read Cyclops in the comics. So.
Same here.
Yeah.
Gone. Yeah, the gut punch when I found that out. Again, especially since 2020 just keeps on hitting us right in the gut.
Yeah.
Just kind of speed through here. As of this episode being released, the live-action Mulan movie will be out on Disney Plus for the $29.99 premium until December, as it was announced over the weekend that Disney will be releasing the movie for free for all Disney Plus users in December, which is a lot sooner than I thought it would be.
Yeah, we really expected it to take like 9 months or something, I think was kind of our general bet.
I was going to say at least by March it would have been there, because I thought they were going to wait, kind of like how they do with the theatrical movies, that it would be, a few months in the theater, then they would wait for the DVD Blu-ray release, and then they would release it on Disney Plus. They're skipping that entirely. I'm guessing they're hoping to get, because this is after the 1 year mark of Disney Plus, so all of the people who got the 1 year free subscriptions, they're hoping that those people will renew just for Mulan, and it's possible that they might.
Renew.
And putting in there right before the holiday. So if you're one of those people who do not want to pay that premium, you won't have to, because by Christmas you'll be watching Mulan for free. Plus, whatever you're paying for Disney Plus.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I will probably be watching it tonight as we record this. Yeah, it turns out that I am going to be given the premium for my birthday as a late birthday present. So
that's nice.
I will probably watch the film tonight. So.
All right. And moving on, The Mandalorian Season 2 has a date, October 30th. So your Halloween weekend, you'll spend it with The Mandalorian. This is the way.
This is the way. Because what else can you do this year?
Pretty much. At least The Mandalorian wears a mask.
Yes, be like the Mando. Wear a mask.
And
this
never
is
take
the
it
way.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
you can take it off at home when you're
yeah.
alone and there's nobody around and you're eating your bone broth or whatever.
Yes. All right. So that is all the news that we can get through right now. Now it's time to talk about pirates.
Arr.
Avast there, me hearty, we're having a party. It's Talk Like a Pirate
Month.
Yo-ho!
Yes, we are going into Talk Like a Pirate Month, where we are celebrating all things pirates, and Disney has a large history of pirates.
So many that we are not even going to get close to all of them this year. This may be a yearly segment with how many they do. Good grief.
Yeah, going all the way back to the very first live-action film that Disney produced, which was Treasure Island. And we're talking about Treasure Planet, which is the third version of Treasure Island that Disney produced. 1950, Treasure Island. This movie came out in 2002, and there was one more in the 90s that we might talk about later.
Maybe.
So there's something about the story of Treasure Island that really sticks with Disney. And there's so much tropes of pirates that just sticks into this movie itself. Like, even though this is a movie in space, you still have the pirates that talk like this and stuff like that.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of those pirate tropes that we think of now did come from movies like that original Treasure Island movie in the 50s. Yeah. You know, the choice of the actors to have that particular sort of British accent in those early pirate movies. It's the entire reason we can have Talk Like a Pirate Day. It's the entire reason that we have our matey and, you know, things like that. They put them in those early movies and everybody just went, yep, pirate. That's what a pirate sounds like. Pirates will forever ever sound like that. So yeah, Disney strangely did have a lot to do with a lot of those tropes being cemented in the public consciousness, I think.
Yeah, and this movie does have history even before this a bit of history in that this was one of the movies that was pitched when we've talked about this before, when Eisner and Katzenberg sat down all the animators and asked them what kind of movies they wanted to make, and one of them just said Treasure Island in space.
Yeah. The interesting thing is the reason this got rejected at the time that, you know, Little Mermaid and stuff got pitched was because apparently Paramount was planning to develop a Star Trek movie because that was at the same time that the original series Star Trek films were coming out in the early to mid 80s there. And they were planning on doing a Star Trek movie that had some kind of Treasure Island plot or theme or something to it.
What would God want with a spaceship?
Yeah, but they eventually dropped it, and I'm guessing that you know, I can't remember the exact timeline there of when all the movies came out, but that might have ended up turning into, you know, Star Trek 5 or something. Who knows? I don't know. But apparently that's why Eisner rejected it initially, because he didn't want to look like they were copying.
Well, he was just working at Paramount like the year previous.
Yeah.
And, you know, considering a few years later of Katzenberg moving over to DreamWorks and Ants and Bugs Life controversy.
Yep. So it's not that it's not a thing in Hollywood sometimes. But I just find that interesting that they scrapped it because of an idea that never came to fruition anyway, so there would have never been an issue. But I kind of really want to know what that would have been like being a Star Trek fan.
Pirate, aliens. Would the Klingons been pirates, or would they have created a new race?
I don't know. I mean, I think Ferengi pirates are more, but they hadn't. I don't think the
Ferengi hadn't been invented
created
yet. Yeah, Deep Space Nine didn't happen yet.
So, well, they were from Next Generation, so they were from the mid to late 80s or very early 90s. I can't remember exactly where they came along in the series, but yeah, but I don't know. This is such a bizarre idea to me, just in concept. But it seemed that so many people wanted to do it.
Yeah, and they had big plans for Treasure Planet. They were going to they were so confident in this movie that they were planning a direct-to-video sequel before this movie was even finished, as well as an animated series. But unfortunately, Treasure Planet didn't do so well because they decided to open this up against Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Disney had a problem. Disney had a lot of problem during the 2000 decade, 2000, 2010, where they seemed to like to open up their big family movies against Harry Potter. Poor Winnie the Pooh, he didn't have a chance.
Yeah, we have talked about that before on the show. But sometimes they come up against things that you don't know are going to be massive films. And in fairness to this one, I think that this came up against the first Harry Potter film.
Chamber of Secrets.
It was already into the series. Okay, then they had absolutely no excuse. So I was gonna say, like, maybe they might have missed because I honestly didn't hear about those books until the movies came out anyway. So I was like, maybe they just didn't know how many fans there were. But no, they definitely knew by this point. This is totally Disney's fault.
Yeah. And I mean, in an alternate universe, Disney would have Harry Potter. They almost did.
Yeah. Let's talk about the cast for this, because I had honestly forgotten what an awesome cast they got for this. This cast is amazing, and most of the people we've already talked about before. We've got Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing Jim Hawkins, our young main character.
At this point, Third Rocket from the Sun was still going strong, wasn't it?
No, it had just finished airing. This would have been like his first project, I think, right after that ended. But he was not yet the Joseph Gordon-Levitt film star that we kind of know now. He hadn't done a lot of those big movies that he had done, but he had done Angels in the Outfield, of course. And by this point, he had done 10 Things I Hate About You, which was, big for a lot of people. So he was kind of starting to get in films, but he wasn't like headlining films yet, really. In the sense of like, oh my God, he's the big main star. But he kind of was one of the main draws for this one. They really kind of sold this on, not entirely on his name, but quite a bit on his name as like, hey kids, you seem to think he's cute, come watch this. But then we've got David Hyde Pierce, who we've talked about before on the show, and we've got Emma Thompson, who was probably also in that particular Harry Potter movie.
Yeah.
It had opened against. So Martin Short is in this. We've talked about him before. Roscoe Lee Brown we've talked about before. Laurie Metcalf, Peter Cullen. Tony Jay is the narrator of the book at the beginning. A really interesting one that I do not believe we've had a chance to talk about yet. Have we talked about Patrick McGoohan yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, Patrick McGoohan is really interesting in kind of the history of sci-fi, as he is best known for being the star of The Prisoner, which is one of the most bizarre British television series ever.
I am not a monkey, I am a free man!
Yeah, he was number 6, and he also wrote a lot of the episodes and was the producer of the series, and I think he may have even created it. I don't fully remember, but yeah. So, but he is in this as a important character, but a character that is not with us for very long. So,
he plays Billy Bones in the movie. Yeah, this does pretty much follow almost all of the beats of the original Treasure Island story. They do change some of the characters around and combine some characters,
And then they turn them all into like anthropomorphic dogs and stuff.
Aliens,
Yeah, but there is a dog and a cat.
Yes, dogs and cats together, mass hysteria.
And having children together. Spoilers. But yeah, I had forgotten how great this cast is. And the other thing I had forgotten is that there are 2 songs in the film. One is used over the ending credits, as you would kind of expect of a movie at this point. But I had forgotten that the other one was in the film as part of the
Montage.
yeah, it's a montage of Jim learning to be a sailor. And that song was actually really big on the radio at the time.
Yeah, I'm Still Here by John Resnick.
Yeah, who is the lead singer and a songwriter for the Goo Goo Dolls. So honestly, I always thought this was just a Goo Goo Dolls song. I never knew it was
showed up on one of their
credited.
greatest hits album. I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. So but the other one, Always Know Where You Are, was not as big. But I'm Still Here was always on the radio at that time, and used in a lot of commercials and trailers for other movies and stuff. I had totally forgotten it was written for this film. And then you've got the score composed by James Newton Howard, so really, really good stuff in there. It's actually a pretty good score, and it does fit the film quite well.
Yeah. Very piratey. It does have a little bit of that sci-fi element to it. Again, the choices of having, even though it's in space, to still have lasers shaped like muskets and spaceships still shaped like sea ships.
Yeah, this is very much like a 1700s steampunk, but in space.
Mm-hmm. Very steampunk.
And yeah, it is incredibly steampunk in feel, all of the technology in this. So if you're a huge steampunk fan and you've never watched this, it might actually be your thing just for the aesthetics of it, because it's a beautifully designed movie. But the weirdest thing about it to me was that they set it not in our universe. But it's in kind of a slightly different universe where outer space is called the Etherium, and the difference is there's atmosphere in it.
But no gravity.
So no gravity, but there is breathable atmosphere. So they don't need spacesuits. They don't need, enclosures. They can just, stand on the ships and whatever. There's creatures that live in the Etherium between worlds. And so it looks like outer space, and there are stars and planets floating in it, but there is complete breathable atmosphere throughout. And apparently they did that because they thought it would take away the seafaring excitement if you had to put on a bubble helmet or have a completely contained ship. So you still can have like the wind blowing through your hair as you hang from the rigging and all that kind of fun stuff of pirate movies. But
the great wind of space.
Yeah. But they do have solar sails, which I find interesting. They have solar sails that power batteries that power rockets that propel the ship.
Again, it's an odd aesthetic choice. I guess I can see why people were kind of turned off of this, because why not just make straight Treasure Island if you're just going to have the same aesthetic as old pirate movies?
Well, I don't know. I kind of liked it, but the problem is that other than calling it the Etherium at the beginning of the movie, when he's reading the little storybook, they don't really explain that the Etherium is outer space but with atmosphere. Like, you kind of have to understand, the way that the mechanics work to go. And for a long time I didn't understand it. And then I was like, oh, they call it the Etherium instead of, maybe that's why. And then I read some stuff on the making of the movie, and apparently that was their idea when they made the movie. Is like, well, we need outer space, but we need it to have atmosphere. So
another production choice I want to talk about this quickly is that there is a lot of CG in this movie. In fact, anything that's not the characters is all CG. Like the characters themselves are 2D animation, but anything, I guess the sets, the background pieces, everything, the ships, the weapon, not necessarily the weapons, but the ships and the background, everything is CG.
It is very bizarre. It's a bizarre choice aesthetically, because I can sort of see why you would want to do it for things like the space backgrounds, and like there's one point where they're like space whales and stuff, and they CGI those, and I'm like, okay, I can understand that as a choice. But then you have things like the captain locks the door of her cabin, and the door lock is CGI, but her hand is 2D animation, and it's very jarring. Or like
I think even the story, I think even Jim's storybook is CG.
Yeah, the storybook I do believe is CG, but like they'll pick up a prop, and the prop in their hand will be CG for no real reason. It's not that you couldn't have gotten the same design and look in 2D, but they chose to do it CGI instead, which at the time I'm like, isn't that just like more difficult at that point in time? I can sort of understand with today's technology it might be cheaper and easier to do things like that, but in 2002 I don't think that was the case. So it's a very odd choice, and it does not blend as well as some other films.
Well, again, one of the names of this era was the experimental era, and they were just experimenting with everything.
Yeah. That is one of the ones that I don't think paid off, because it did not hold up visually as well as I think they would have hoped. Some of it still looks beautiful, but a lot of the mundane stuff, like, at one point there's a chase through the ship and he's turning over barrels, and they're just so badly CG'd. Like, they're rendered really poorly, and they look very grainy, especially now on an HD TV.
Yeah.
So, maybe they should have kept some of that 2D as well when the characters were interacting with it, but it is what it is.
I kind of understand. Again, CG animation was the big thing at the time. They kind of wanted to, I guess, get as much of that feeling in, but still having the 2D style, but just make it a 2D movie.
Yeah, and I think the other problem was anytime anybody wanted to do like sci-fi but animation, they wanted to shove as much CGI in there because I think they thought that it looked more futuristic or whatever. But the weird thing is that this was not supposed to look futuristic. Like, steampunk is only a futuristic look compared to like the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. It's supposed to look like old ideas of futuristic, and I think that putting the CG in there kind of ruined that effect. I don't know.
Not exactly the Fallout style,
Yeah. If you're gonna do a throwback of what some previous point in time thought the future would look like, you really have to go all in on it. You can't mix it. Bethesda, don't think I don't see what you're doing.
And there's even some obviously references of modern day, because you have the rocket board that Jim sails on, and the police are still acting like modern police rather than 1700s police.
Yeah, that is also an interesting thing, is that the police look more like what we would have thought robot police would have kind of looked like in 2002. Like if you'd asked somebody in 2002, like, draw what you think autonomous robot police look like, they're very Futurama kind of
Yeah,
style robot police.
definitely.
But then you see another robot later, the Martin Short character, and it's a very steampunk, clockwork, steamworks looking robot.
Mhm.
So which is it? Because the police are the only ones we see that really have that kind of slick, futuristic kind of look to it. Everything else in the world looks very clockwork steampunk. So I don't know.
It feels like that maybe might have been a note from the Office. Hey, let's have the cops look like modern cops or something like that.
Yeah, and some of the construction equipment during that opening scene, where Jim is like hoverboarding
Skydiving.
through everything. Yeah. Um, he goes through like a construction site, and some of that construction equipment was just like modern construction equipment.
Yeah.
Like from 2002. You could have gone on a construction site almost anywhere and found that exact equipment. So I was like, well, you could have shown a little bit more interest in designing something there, because I thought the hoverboard design was kind of interesting because it was part like surf sailboard kind of thing,
Yeah.
but on a rocket, but kind of also moved like a hoverboard, like a Back to the Future kind of style hoverboard. So yeah, they got a lot of weird inspirations, and not all of it fit together as well as you would have hoped.
There's one thing about Jim's design that bothers me. Like, he has this thing under his eye. I don't know if that's supposed to be a scar or something, but he seems to have it on both sides of his face, but it's only noticeable when he's looking in certain directions.
Oh my god, I'm glad I wasn't the only one that wanted to talk about that.
Like,
I was trying to think of how to bring that up because it's so weird.
Like, does the scar move? I don't know.
No, I don't think. At first I thought they were scars, and then I was like, well, is it supposed to be maybe bags under his eyes, but it's too low? And then I think I realized what it was supposed to be.
What was
I
it?
think it was supposed to be like cheekbones, like he's supposed to have like cut cheekbones, but it looks so bad. It just looks like,
especially compared to the other characters in the movie who actually do have those kind of cheekbones, and they're actually drawn in.
yeah, it's so weird because it's like they put the line for the cheekbone, but then they didn't shade in the hollow that comes when somebody has cut cheekbones like that. So they didn't put any shading underneath. And then they also tried to make him have like cute pudgy cheeks at the same time. I don't know what it was supposed to be, but that's the only thing I can think of that makes sense where they placed it. So, yeah, I don't know, but it is so distracting throughout the movie. I just kept watching that line on his face jump from side to side.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like a 2D video game where the sprite turns around and it's the same whatever. Like, if it has a mark on one eye, he'll have the same mark as soon as he flips over.
Yeah, it's very badly done for Disney. I really expected better from them.
At least we don't have the trope of the dead parrot. We just have a deadbeat parrot who walked out on Jim.
And apparently we were supposed to see the parent at some point, his father, at some point during the movie. At one point in production, they even like recorded voice lines for his dad, but then they cut it and decided to just have the dad completely absent. And I think they really wanted him troubled in some way and looking for a father figure so that Silver could become his father figure.
I don't hate that decision, especially and it's not a bad decision. I just wish if they had worked a little bit more on that. Especially, I mean, they do make it kind of obvious where Silver says, "Ain't your dad tell you how to pick your fights?" It's like, well, my dad left me. I didn't have a dad.
Well, they do drop it earlier in the movie where the mom is talking to David Hyde Pierce dog. And he says something about, you're having trouble with that boy. And she says, I've been having trouble with him since his dad left. So they do put it in, but it's a very kind of, if you were crunching popcorn too loud, you missed that part of the story. And they never say why, or when in his life that dad disappeared. It's just dad is not in the picture for some reason. But yeah, if you don't know the story, the short version is that Jim Hawkins and his mother run a like a little motel or whatever inn pub thing, and one day a dying pirate named Billy Bones shows up and gives them a map. In this case, it's like a little technological Rubik's Cube sphere thing, and says that, they need to keep it away from, in this case, the cyborg. And they discover that it's a map to the greatest pirate treasure of all time. And Jim and his friend David Hyde Pierce dog are off on the adventure of their life to go find this thing.
And we're not going to have a hundreds of episode anime series where they never find the treasure. Toy.
Yeah. Yeah. But they end up on a ship. There's some pirates on the ship also looking for the treasure, led by the cyborg. They just call him Silver in this one, but Long John Silver in the original book. Mm-hmm. And then the pirates have a mutiny. They try to, they eventually find the treasure planet and figure out the secret of it. But it turns out the whole thing is booby-trapped. They have to outrun the booby trap. Silver switches sides because now he absolutely loves Jim as his own son and saves Jim rather than running away with the treasure. Everybody lives happily ever after, except, I guess, the pirate crew who Silver abandons and ends up in jail.
Well, half of them end up in jail. The other half are dead.
Well, yeah. I guess jail might be the better option there, but,
The idea of the treasure planet itself is unique. Again, I guess it's... And they do make it straight up that this is not necessarily a natural planet, because as soon as the pirates start digging, they hit steel.
Yeah, it is a giant machine that I think is just there. I don't think it's intended to be a planet. I think it's just there to power the interdimensional portal that the pirate used to steal all of his stuff. Okay, here's the thing is, in the original Treasure Island, there is a hidden treasure, there is an island, and if I'm remembering correctly, they do get some loot.
We see, in this version, we do see Silver kind of pocketing handfuls of coins into his coat, and he does give one of those pocketfuls to Jim at the end of the movie so his mom can rebuild the inn.
Yeah, but it's not like they're set for life. It's basically like, sorry for burning down your inn at the beginning of the movie. But, like, none of them actually leave rich. But the thing is that in Treasure Planet, the secret of Treasure Planet is that it is booby-trapped to destroy the entire planet if anybody ever finds it. The original pirate, Flint, who created, or at least stashed his treasure, we don't know if he created the planet, but he hid his loot on this planet and filled, like, the entire core of the planet with treasure. This is a massive treasure vault. This makes Uncle Scrooge look poor. I mean, seriously, the scale of this thing in the film is unbelievable. And it's supposed to be the collected treasure of like 1,000 worlds or something.
Yeah.
But Flint set the whole thing to blow if anybody ever found it. And we find Flint's skeleton in the middle of that planet. So, Flint just sat there and was like, ah, yes, I will sit here and stare at my treasure until I starve to death and then blow up the planet behind me.
Yeah, I mean, he never actually does anything with the treasure.
Excuse me.
He just likes looking at it, apparently.
Yeah, because it's not like he built himself a mansion on the surface of the planet or anything that we see.
No, he just lived, and we don't see any of the other members of the crew, unless Flint killed them off screen.
Yeah, but we don't see their corpses.
No,
it's just Flint sitting in his ship on a giant pile of treasure until he turns to a skeleton.
With Ben's memory chip in his hand.
Yeah. He took the memory chip of the robot so that no one could ever find the entrance to the planet. And that they wouldn't know that there was a booby trap to try to avoid it. So yeah, nothing about this particular end makes sense to me. Because what is your end game? Like, normally, if somebody wants to amass treasure like that, it's because they want to live the good and high life. They want to use it to buy themselves something. A big house, good vacations, the
Land,
best food, the best clothing, you know. But this guy already has a planet that nobody else can find. And there is like atmosphere and plant life and stuff. It's a pretty nice looking planet on the outside.
So the money would just pretty much be useless because there's no if he had his own private planet, he wouldn't even need currency.
Well, I mean, you could send people out to buy trinkets or fauna from other planets. I mean, you could become whatever their galaxy's version of the Tiger King is, I guess. I don't know. You could have all kinds of servants, winches. Think of anything a pirate could desire. He's got enough to buy star systems in that horde. Like, at that point, just pay every government in the galaxy to leave you alone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you could just hire the entire galaxy at that point.
The smartest pirate story I ever saw would be Dread Pirate Roberts in Princess Bride, because he amassed his wealth and then he retired and passed the mantle to someone else.
Yeah. And the idea is that, like, apparently Flint has nobody to leave this wealth to.
So he's going to make sure no one else has it and die with it, and then the planet blows up and then all those coins are destroyed anyway.
Yeah, and it's not just coins, it's like jewelry and art and stuff. I mean, there's, it's mostly like, gold and gems, it looks like, but there are other objects in there. And I'm like, you just destroyed probably the greatest creations of hundreds of worlds.
Yeah. Just
why?
It's not unheard of. There are people who will collect things for the sole purpose of no one else can have them. They don't even respect what the arts are or whatever the things they have are. They just, I have it, you don't, therefore it's important.
Yeah, but it's just, considering we know absolutely nothing about Flint beyond a 2-minute short kind of at the beginning in Jim's storybook.
And which may not even be true. the actual life, because again, it's based on someone else telling the story.
Yeah, one of his survivors.
Yeah.
Of one of his attacks. But yeah, it's just I am baffled by Flint's plan, because it's like you amass all that wealth to die alone inside a planet.
He doesn't even let his robot stay with him. He just like banishes his own robot, potentially his only companion, and just rips his brain out, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I get what it's trying to tell children as a moral. You know, money won't buy happiness, and friendship is greater than money, and love is greater than money. You know, all of those are good things, and I agree with them. But I don't particularly like stupid villains, I guess. It's like, I really want to know what Flint's plan was, because none of this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Let's go back in the story now that we've completely ruined the ending.
One thing that does bother me, and again, it's this era of Disney. Did we really need an alien who only communicates in farts?
That was another thing that I really hated. I did like the joke about I took 2 years of flatula in high school. That's a good joke. But did we need to like keep that character around in the background farting every now and then?
Every couple of scenes we just needed him. And there's a big scene where apparently him and Jim are sharing quarters, so Jim has to hear this flatulence all night long. And it's assumed that the smell keeps him awake.
Either that or the noise, I don't know. But like, why not just have that be like a random person they pass on the dock on the way to their ship?
Yeah, it could have been one scene.
That joke works just as well, even if it's a passing, you know, like, oh, we have to ask this guy for directions. You know,
they do that in the beginning of the book, which, okay, it's fine, but that could have just been it. He goes, hey, do you know where Doc blah 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 is? And oh, he says that way. Well, how did you understand him? Well, I took this course in high school, and then bum, that's it.
Yeah, that would have been a funny joke. I would have actually liked it had it been a shorter joke. Had it been a one-off, I would have liked it, but like that it's a recurring character is just so annoying, because it's not a new joke after that. There's nothing new you can do with that joke.
And it feels like it's almost beneath Disney to do that. Granted, Shrek had come out not long before this, and that kind of made it popular, but still, it felt like Disney had a little bit of class or something, you know? Maybe it's me.
Yeah, the funny thing is that we've talked about this before with Disney, like, looking down in a way on their child audience, because we talked about that when we did our little mini review of Frozen 2, that like they really expected like some crude joke or whatever to be the thing that made all the children laugh. But in my theater, the thing that made all the children laugh was Olaf going, Samantha? Wait, I don't even know anybody named Samantha.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not like a crude or base joke. It requires like not a great intelligence, of course, but it requires like knowledge and thinking about it. Like, why is it funny? Oh, because he doesn't know anybody named Samantha, so why is he calling out? You know, I mean,
yeah.
But that was the one that all the kids laughed at, which I think that's a hilarious joke too. Honestly, I still love
just saying joke. Random names, just seeing who would react.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know why movies keep trying to go with the extended crude joke, because they're really only funny if you're 2, and 2-year-olds don't spend money.
Mm-hmm. And 2-year-olds aren't really going to pay attention in a movie theater.
Or if you're a really drunk frat boy, and really drunk frat boys don't come to see Treasure Planet, you know? Like that's neither of those are your money making audience. So why are you doing that? I don't know. I'm not above crude humor, and I do think that the joke is funny, but just once.
Yeah. The idea of changing changing Captain Alexander, as he was in the original story, to a woman, I don't hate that idea, but it was clearly just so to have a love subplot.
But you know what I like about her is that she's not just a love interest. She actually has her own personality and her own, she's the competent one. She's not there to just be saved.
And I love the relationship between Amelia and Arrow. Like, these two have known each other for many years. Like, we were just having tea earlier today, and what did I say about the crew? You said that they sucked. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, and Roscoe Lee Brown and Emma Thompson play those characters so perfectly. Emma Thompson does an amazing job in this movie.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's not like she never does voice acting, but it's not really her specialty, of course. Mm-hmm. But man, this movie makes me want her in more animation. Because to me, this did not feel like stunt casting. While it was very obviously, it is Emma Thompson's voice. Mm-hmm. It also feels like she's doing a character. Yeah. You have a feeling she'd be playing this character the same way if she was doing it live action. Which I really loved. I really loved everything about her interpretation, how she's kind of a little too fast-spoken, a little sarcastic, a little arrogant. She's not perfect. You don't know whether to love her or hate her at first because she's kind of rude.
Little high and mighty in some places.
Yeah, but then you do kind of realize that, like, she really does know her stuff, and she really is competent. She's not necessarily being rude to be rude. I think she's just blunt. And maybe she's so used to being a captain that her social skills have kind of degenerated a little bit.
Possibly.
But I absolutely love this character. I think it's my second favorite character in the entire movie. Because my favorite character in the entire movie is Morph.
Yeah, Morph, obviously a character not from the books because it's an alien that can transform.
And it is basically a pet. It's the cute pet of the cute Disney animal companion.
Yeah, I guess in a regular pirate movie, this would be like Polly the parrot or something.
Yeah. I love the concept of this, like this tiny little shapeshifter. Mm-hmm. And it can do things like it can perfectly mimic the captain, but she's only 2 inches tall.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to be like, oh, we're going to use this to get out of eventually it does toward the end of the movie come where Morph makes himself look like the treasure map sphere. And there's a mix-up of who has the sphere and who has Morph and all this kind of stuff. But for the most part, he can't be used to I'm going to pretend that my pet is this other character. But it's just kind of there for comic relief. And unlike a lot of Disney sidekick animals, especially at this point in time, this one is actually funny and adorable and does not annoy me.
And actually, is proactive in certain parts where, Morph turns into a cream pie to blind somebody or poke him in the eye by turning into a glove.
Yeah, and also has a mind of his own.
Yeah.
At one point there's are you going to go with Silver, who at that point has, committed mutiny and has shown himself to be a bad guy? Or do you go with Jim? And, Morph is a good little Morph.
He's a good boy.
Yeah, he's a good boy. He wants to go with Jim. He doesn't want to be an evil, mean pirate. He wants to be a nice blob. So I like that character. There's so much that they get out of that character, and it doesn't really speak unless it's mimicking somebody.
Yeah.
It'll say a couple of words that
And
another
they could
character
have
has just said.
they could have easily,
Much like a parrot.
yeah, they could have easily reused the line said by the actor, but they actually hired Dane Davis to mimic each actor as Morph.
Yeah, and also do those cute little Frank Welker noises that you get.
Yeah, why not get Frank Welker?
Yeah.
But again, the fact that they didn't just replay each line from each character, as Morph, that you had an actual actor. Okay, you're gonna mimic these characters.
Yeah, I liked it because it made it seem more authentic or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But usually, if you're gonna put a character like that in a movie, that's gonna be the thing that irritates me. It's like, oh, here's the thing we put in just to be adorable and comic relief. Yeah. But this one, I really liked it. I thought everything they did with this character was really interesting and not annoying. I don't know. I really think, though, that they needed to bring in some new things that weren't necessarily from Treasure Island. I think the problem is they kept the story of Treasure Island, like I said, except for the ending, where, all the treasure is destroyed and all that kind of stuff. But, except for the treasure is booby-trapped and nobody really gets more than a handful of it, they kind of take Treasure Island kind of pretty close to beat for beat.
Yeah.
And I really felt that because of the setting, they might have needed to broaden it a little bit.
Especially since we're about 5 years removed from the previous version of Treasure Island Disney did. So that movie was still in people's minds.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't mine. That may have not been an official Disney at the time, was it?
It was a Disney production, and
Oh, okay, all right. We're being a little sneaky. You may be able to guess one of our future episodes this month, though, if you work it out. But this sticks so weirdly faithfully to the book, and you're like, yeah, but you're in space. Do something more than just like add a robot and a little, morphing pet.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things about Disney. Even when they're adapting a story, they do still put their own spin on the story to make it a little bit more of them. Like with Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Tarzan, they're still going almost beat for beat from the story, but there's still enough twists in there that there's still some of an original concept in there. Yeah,
Disney's Beauty and the Beast is very different from most of the Beauty and the Beasts that came before it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a oft retold story. Disney's Little Mermaid is very different from the Hans Christian Andersen and many other versions of Little Mermaid that were made before Disney got a hold of it. Disney's Cinderella is different. That every time they retell an older story in an animated form, especially, they put their own spin on it. And other than some of them are aliens and the island is a planet, what Disney spin is in this?
Yeah.
Other than a slight little, moral at the end of the story about, like, money isn't everything, kids, there's not really a Disney spin on this. In fact, if I did not know this was a Disney movie, there's nothing about this that says Disney to me. It just says animated 2000s movie.
Yeah, this could have been a DreamWorks movie. This could have been a Fox animated movie.
Given the way the main character looks, this could have been a Bluth movie.
Yeah.
The design of Jim is very Bluth, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. It just I wanted them to do more, like go off script a little bit more with this, because this movie, it's a normal kind of runtime. It's, an hour and a half sort of runtime, but it feels so much shorter because honestly, not much happens. They hit the major beats of Treasure Island, but it feels almost like a kind of like, I don't want anybody to think I'm ragging on the show here, but it feels like the Wishbone version of Treasure Island. But in the sense that it feels like it's a condensed version of it for kids. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted. You could have made it a little bit longer. You could have added more action scenes. And really the only thing that it's like, the only kind of plot point they really add in the middle is that they encounter a supernova and they almost get sucked into the black hole that forms from the supernova. And
which really would
one
just
of the
be
characters dies.
Which really would just be a storm if this was a regular movie.
Yeah. It's, oh no, we got caught in a squall and somebody fell overboard. Instead, it's, oh no, it's a supernova and somebody got sucked into a black hole.
I do like the idea of the lifelines, though. Like they're all like maybe it's something I'm not used to in pirate movies, but the idea of everyone tying themselves down,
yeah,
make sure that they don't get sucked into the black hole.
Yeah, and honestly, there is a version of that in a lot of pirate movies, so it's not a complete new thing for this film, but I don't know. I like the scene because it's when the dog, what's his name, Doppler, Dr. Doppler, it's when he shows himself to actually be intelligent, because up until that he's been kind of a bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
Kind of upper class twit of the year, kind of character.
Wannabe explorer.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you see like, oh yeah, he's sort of like an astronomer and astrophysicist and stuff, and he shows his expertise in that moment and saves the entire ship, which I really like.
You mentioned Star Trek. There is actually a Star Trek reference in this movie. Dang it, Jim! I'm a professor, not a doctor.
Well, not that kind of doctor. I mean,
Yeah.
we know stuff, but we generally sit around and are useless instead of actually helping people. Yeah, I really liked that line. It feels like so much about this movie was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, there's so much they could have done here that I don't know if this was always the plan, even going back, in '88 when they pitched this. But it's like they could have done so much more, especially at this point in Disney. They could have really, maybe, not released it the same week as Harry Potter, but maybe, do something that makes people talk about this movie. Maybe if this movie was a little bit more successful, we could have had this, more of this. Again, they were planning a series based off this movie. Don't know how it would have worked, but they would have thought of something.
Well, we were supposed to follow, the next movie was supposed to be Jim in the officers academy or whatever, that we see him at the end, that he's wearing the uniform and everything, that the captain has gotten him into the academy and that he's supposed to be on his way. We would see him like be stationed on his first ship or whatever, and I kind of would have liked that, I think, because Jim was a pretty interesting character. Of course, there's still like the question of Jim's father. Would Jim's father have shown up? Would it have been like Jim's father had been captured by pirates or something? Or I don't know.
It feels like that probably they would have used I guess one of the plots that they ended up using for the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, where you find out that he is now serving a pirate, or he became a pirate captain or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a world with pirates in it. There's so much, pirate stuff that could have happened to somebody.
And they would have brought back Silver for that movie.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't there a sequel to Treasure? Wasn't there actually a sequel to Treasure Island? A book. Didn't Stevenson actually write a book? Maybe I'm cross remembering different pirate movies, because at some point they all tend to bleed together.
Yeah, that's kind of my problem with pirate movies too. I kind of like the genre, but they do tend to bleed together for me. But they were gonna have instead of like Blackbeard or whatever in the sequel, they were gonna have Ironbeard, and they were gonna have the Botany Bay prison asteroid, and instead of the Botany Bay being a destination,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's I really like this concept because I like pirates. I like things in space. I want space pirates. That this would have been really cool, and I really like the idea of the Etherium, even though it's weird. Once you kind of get into it, I'm like, okay, I can get the aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
It is very steampunky, and I'm into that. Okay, I'm with you on this, but the problem is that there's not enough plot here that they actually go through. They kind of did a lot of Jim's growth as a character via Goo Goo Dolls montage, which I'm not necessarily against, but like, I want a bit more character work,
Yeah, there's just so much missed opportunity with this movie. They could have done, reiterating what I said before, like, there's not enough Disney originality in this movie, other than they're in space.
Yeah, this could have been made, like we said, by any animation studio.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, this is such a, there's no Disney
not to
spin
say that
on
this
this
is not a bad movie. I'm not going to say that this is a bad movie. It's not.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable movie, but it doesn't go as far as you want it in any sense of the word.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see like a spaceship battle. Like, oh no, here's another ship in space, and now we must.
Yeah, we don't even get that. If we had that at the beginning, it would have been cool. Like people were fighting back against Flint or something.
Yeah, we do get a little bit. We get like 45 seconds of it as part of the storybook. I want to see really awesome sword fights.
Yeah.
We see Silver with a sword, some kind of sword in his cybernetic arm. Like, where is my pirate sword fight? Like I want people fighting up in the rigging and stuff.
Oh, if we had like this kind of fight between Jim and Silver,
that would be really cool. Especially if he had used the little hoverboard thing he does in the climax of the movie to save them. We see those skills come back again, but like, I would have really liked it to have come across in like a fight sequence.
Yeah. There's not enough swashbuckling in this swashbuckling movie.
Yeah, the mutiny in this movie, happens in the blink of an eye. And it's basically like, all right, boys, we're mutinying. All right, boys, we've taken over the ship. Like, it happens that fast. There's no battle. There's no, it's just like, ship's ours now. Okay, that's done.
They focus more on the captain and the dog and Jim escaping the ship than they do the takeover. And we assume that everyone not part of Silver's crew was killed. Which, oh no, Fart Alien was killed in the mutiny. Oh no.
I guess? I don't... don't know.
We
like,
never see him. We never see him again.
I guess, but like I thought I got the idea from the opening that the rock monster guy, the first mate and the captain, those two were the only ones that were the captain's real crew, and then the rest of them were Silver's pirates.
That's the original story. That's how it goes in Treasure Island, but it's never really explained that in here. He knows that they said that some of the crew is Silver's crew.
I kind of like the idea of like the fart monster falling to his death on the planet, though, as it blows up. I don't know. I just want like a really bad death for that thing. So yeah, there wasn't enough pirate in this pirate movie. Mm-hmm. It is based on one of the grand pirate novels. Like the pirate novel. Why is there so little pirate in this movie?
I think that had to do with the rating, because Disney was still in, we need to keep it G-rated. And they wouldn't go PG until, like, I want to say, the Frozen, at least.
Was this one G-rated?
I believe it was G.
I mean, I can believe it because there's, like, nothing in this film. You see, like, a couple of people vaguely fall to their deaths, and that's kind of it. And one that dies of previously gotten injuries, off-screen injuries. Yeah, we never deal with the fact in this movie.
It is PG.
Oh, okay. It must just be because, like, explosions or something, because I can't imagine what in this movie is worth a PG rating even. But we never deal in the movie with the fact that, like, John Silver killed Billy Bones. Like, they don't say it in the film, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because Bones shows up in a damaged ship, almost dead, and then dies on the floor of the inn minutes later. And then a shadowy group of pirates led by the cyborg, who we later find out is John Silver, shows up and burns the place down. Mm-hmm. So, like, they just straight up murdered a dude, and at the end we're like, "Oh, you adorable little scamp. You go wander the universe as you will."
Yeah, I guess they want to have that turn for Silver. They don't actually show him killing anyone. It's all implied, so you can have kind of see him as a bit of a sympathetic figure. But
yeah, the weird little crab spider thing, Scroop, is the one that we actually see murder a dude outright.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that cuts the lifeline for Mr. Arrow, the first mate. That leads to him being sucked into the black hole. So he's really the one that they peg as, like, the villainous murderer.
Mm-hmm. And he does kind of get chastised by Silver, like, what are you doing? You could have blown the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but you have a feeling that Silver was planning on them dying.
In the mutiny, but not before.
I'm not sure that really matters to the people who are gonna die. Like,
I don't know.
Well, I wasn't planning to kill you now. I was gonna wait 5 minutes. Just give me some credit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that there's so much that's kind of wasted in this movie. Like, Roscoe Lee Brown is such a good actor. He's Mr. Arrow for like 5 minutes and then he dies.
Yeah.
Patrick McGowan, this was his final film role. This was it for him. He gets 2 minutes maybe. He has about 8 lines. And that's
Beware
it.
the cyborg.
Yeah, that's don't let him get this. That's about it. Peter Cullen is in this as Captain Flint. He's got what, one line? I think he says "yar" and that's about it.
Man, this is not how you treat Optimus Prime.
Yeah, Tony J.
Yeah.
You know, you got Tony J, Disney legend here, and he has about 4 lines. He's,
If they had actually had him be the narrator throughout the whole movie, it might have been better.
yeah, because the narrator has like 2 lines at the beginning and 2 lines at the end, I think. Does he even come back at the end?
No, because he's only the narrator for Jim's storybook.
Oh yeah, that's right. And Martin Short, you've got Martin Short in here, and you're like, oh, well, Martin Short, that's going to be a major character. And, like, plot-wise, the character is important, but screen-wise, he gets, what, like 15 minutes? He doesn't show up until the 3rd act of the film, and then has a few lines, says a few jokes, and then the movie's over.
Yeah.
So, and then we have barely even talked about her, but Jim's mom is played by Laurie Metcalf. Amazing actress, and she does such a good job with the role, but she's really on screen for the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then she's gone.
Yeah. Like,
So,
I don't even think she gets lines during the epilogue of the movie.
Yeah, I think once she comes back at the end of the movie and they've rebuilt the inn, I think nobody has any lines at that point. I think it's all just music until the end. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It seems weird how much they peppered this cast with like the most amazing talent, and then they didn't really use them.
Yeah. Again, so much wasted potential in this movie. It's coming to my brain. There's not that there's not good bits. I mean, one of the funniest bits to me is the captain looking at Doppler saying, "Oh, you have such beautiful eyes. She's lost her mind."
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned that the captain is a cat person.
Yes.
And the doctor is a dog person. And at the end of the movie, they are a couple that, in a very Kermit and Miss Piggy way, when Kermit and Miss Piggy hook up in some movies and they show like, and in the future they'll have kids, it's always like all the boys are frogs and all the girls are pigs.
Yes.
It's that way in this movie, that they have like all their boy children are dogs and all their girl children are cats. It's not like a mix of dog and cat. It's just like gender segregated by species. I've never understood why any property does that. Probably because it's like a weird Dr. Moreau kind of nonsense.
It's a marketing thing, so you can
half cat,
get
half
it.
dog.
I don't know. Again, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very bizarre. But I think that there were so many strengths that they could have built off of. Number one, just being the design of this movie is amazing.
Yeah.
I know I said that at the top of the show, but the design of this movie is absolutely incredible.
Like I said, with the exception of the police robots, every character has a great aesthetic, a great design. And
it really does feel like the same time period Treasure Island is from, but with a sci-fi twist.
Which isn't bad. It's just I wish they had gone a little bit more into it.
I really love that the spaceport is like a crescent moon shape that just kind of hangs in the sky.
Yeah, and
like the inside of the crescent has buildings on it and stuff, and then ships launch from there. That is so unique to me, and it's so beautiful, and I've always loved that design.
Yeah, and you see it the whole movie, like you see it that whole opening scene that it's the moon. No, it's a space. That's no moon. That's a space station.
Yeah, except it's not a traditional like round space station or disc shaped or something. It's really an interesting design, and one that you're like, oh, okay, cool. But so much about this movie just frustrates me.
Mm-hmm.
That I think they put a lot into the visuals and a lot into the actors, and then they didn't really pay the script people that much.
Yeah. It just feels like there's so many things that they could have done. It feels like there is something missing from this story that it feels like they didn't want to go full into either the pirate aesthetic or the sci-fi aesthetic, so they kind of held themselves back. Again, I don't know if that was their decision or a company decision or a marketing decision that, hey, our you know the chart says fans don't like this, so we have to hold this back or something. Movie by committee and all that.
Yeah, it says that they made a lot of changes late in the film, like when I was doing research, and it said that there were a lot of things that were intended but were cut. The storybook sequence at the beginning, we were originally supposed to see that from Flint's perspective. But apparently they thought it was a little too dark to see it from the perspective of like the evil pirate. I don't know exactly what they were planning. Maybe they were planning to go really dark with it, but I don't know. I really would have liked to have known more about Flint. Like, why was Flint doing this other than greed? And did his greed have a purpose other than I want to sit and look at my shiny things? I don't know. I think Flint bothers me most of anything in this movie. Because Flint doesn't make sense as a character. Very, very few people. I mean, there are some people that like they want to go like, I have it, and then Egyptian pharaohs maybe bury me with it or whatever. But honestly, I think that was a cultural thing necessarily than the pharaoh demanded it. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not an Egyptology expert.
But the best I know about that, it's more like you're buried with all of your belongings, that in case you aren't really dead, or you wake up from the dead, or some sort of way to take
it gets transported to the next life or something.
Something like that. That's how I always interpreted it.
But most cultures and most people have always had that idea of, most of them have had, you can't take it with you. And some of them, like, sometimes you're buried with things because you think you can take it with you. But, like, put an answer in either way. Did he want to be buried with it because he thought he was taking to an afterlife? Like, oh, he shored all this up and thought it was going with him to the afterlife, and, he didn't want anybody taking it from him once he had crossed over or something. That would have made sense. I would have bought that.
Or maybe use the portal. Maybe he was going to... Maybe he found a portal to the afterlife and was going to go there, and he died before he got there.
Yeah, or he thought it was a portal to the afterlife, but it ended up just being death. I don't know. But give me, like, 2 sentences of what was your plan here, dude?
Yeah. Again, maybe he just wanted to just be buried with his treasure just to have it.
Yeah. Also, it seems weird that, from what we know, the Dr. Doppler is the one chartering this voyage.
He's also financing this voyage.
That's what I meant. That he is the money. We see his house, his mansion, and stuff. We know he has money. So he has paid this crew and this ship to go on this voyage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's understandable that he's treated as an honored guest. You know, he just kind of sits around in his cabin and waits for them to get to where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
So why in this version is Jim still put to work in the kitchen?
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Because wouldn't that be like, you know, my young charge and I are going to be passengers on your ship? You know, it's like, I get, you know, in the original story why, you know, everybody needs to do their own work on a ship, and okay, fine. But this is specifically said to be a chartered vessel. They are being paid by Doppler.
Mm-hmm.
So why doesn't Jim just also have a cabin, or shares Doppler's cabin, or at least doesn't have to work in the galley?
I think that's one of the where it fails in trying to stick too close to the original story.
Yeah, they needed Jim and Silver to bond,
Mm-hmm.
and that is how they bonded in the original story. Silver being the ship's cook and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But
I would have had it that you know, Jim still gets in trouble and all that, but he's also like the cook at the inn. And that's how he's you're a cook. Well, you can go help our cook out and out on the gallows.
Yeah, maybe Silver isn't that great a cook or something. You know, like, oh, maybe you can go teach him some tricks, or, you know, I don't know. There had to be another way to do that other than like, well, boy, the map is yours, but we're going to make you work for your passage, even though the other dude is paying us all to go on this voyage for you. It does not make sense to me in this universe. It makes sense to me because it is an adaptation of Treasure Island.
Yeah.
But in the universe they've set up, this doesn't make any sense. And there's a lot about this movie that only happens because it happened in the book.
Yeah, and like we said, it sticks too much into the original Treasure Island story, and it tries to do something original and doesn't go full into it. Like, you could still have your sci-fi elements, you could still have a little bit of an original story in Treasure Island and still have it to be the same story. It just, things happen because they happen in the original story, and especially for Disney, you need a better reason for it, you know?
Yeah, and I'm going to bring up Dominic Noble again because, you know, we love to talk about him. But he talks in his YouTube show that when he first started doing reviewing book to movie adaptations, that he judged them on, well, how closely does this stick to the plot of the original source material? Mm-hmm. And then along the way, he realized that's not what makes a good adaptation. A good adaptation takes the themes and the morals of the original and then changes the story to fit whatever medium it's in.
And I think that's actually been the key to success of the Marvel movies. They're still keeping these characters as they are in the comics and the same themes of them, but they're changing the story enough that it makes a good movie.
Yeah, because the thing that makes a good comic series does not always make a good TV series or film series or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the things that make a good novel do not always make a good film series, you know, or film. Singular.
I think I did see one of Dom's videos where he goes like, the movie is essentially you summarizing the book and putting out the parts that you like the best.
Yeah, and I think that is a good way to look at it. But the thing is that while this does follow the plot beats, I think a lot of things that people forget is that in a lot of books, I'm not necessarily saying like, you know, specific to Treasure Island here or whatever, but in a lot of books, because it is a written medium, you're privy to the character's thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And in film, the only way to really do that is to have a voiceover narration. And that works in some films. But in most films, it doesn't.
Yeah. I think it's also like in like Shakespeare plays where you have the soliloquy. And you can't really do that in film.
You can, but it's a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to take the soliloquy and put another character in the scene and make it look like they're talking to somebody, because, or you could have them talk to themselves in the mirror. I've seen some recent films that do it like they're doing a video blog. You know, because talking to a camera is a thing we do now on the regular.
Yeah.
You know, that's normal. So film it like they're filming a YouTube video. So there are ways to do it, but you have to understand your medium. And I think that this one, they didn't quite understand the medium. And you're right that they didn't want to go too far pirate or too far sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I think that by doing neither, they kind of messed up doing either.
Yeah.
It kind of fails at both, because you don't have the pure sci-fi aesthetic, because you've got like artificial gravity, but they can breathe in space. You know, which even if you give them that, you know, I'm willing to go with them on that, but it's still weird unless you explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got things like, it looks like a musket, but it's a laser pistol, which, you know, maybe why, how did this evolve? I don't know. I'm not saying you have to explain everything, but give me a sentence here or there to just let my brain gloss over it and go like, well, they hand waved it in some way or other.
Yeah. And I mean, we're already talking about this for 90 minutes. We're already talking about this longer than the movie is. I think we can
Yeah.
wrap up our thoughts on this one. So let's get that out there. Is there magic in this movie? I'm going to say there's the potential for great magic in this movie. They just didn't go far enough.
Yeah, I'm really gonna agree with that. As far as the film stands,
It's not a bad movie.
as
It's
you can
not.
watch, it's an entertaining movie. Is it one that I'm really gonna put on and watch over and over again? No, but every few years I might put it on and revisit it and go, oh yeah, that's.
Yeah, I would not. This is not even. I wouldn't say this is my favorite pirate movie or even my favorite adaptation of Treasure Island, but I was entertained watching this movie.
I would like to see somebody try to do this concept again. I would like to see a reboot of this in some form, because the concept is really fascinating to me. I would just like to see it done with the confidence that I think they lacked in the idea.
You know, they could. It's not like they don't have their own streaming network that they need content for.
Yeah, you know.
Treasure Planet Disney Plus series actually going. They might. I mean, I wouldn't mind them going back to this concept.
Yeah, do this as like a Flash animated show on the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the technology has advanced enough that you could get similar visuals to what they use then now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, do it. It would be awesome, but commit.
Yeah.
Commit to both sides. Commit to the sci-fi, or at least the steampunk nature. It doesn't have to be full sci-fi, but commit to like that steampunk aesthetic.
Yeah.
And commit to the fact that there's freaking pirates in this thing, and I think you've got a good property.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's all we can say about Treasure Planet. It's okay. I guess that's our final word. It's okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on to, since we are doing Pirate Month, let's talk. Next week's episode is going to be another pirate movie, around ish the same time, they had Disney had this obsession of taking their attractions at their parks and making movies out of them. A lot of them weren't good, but one actually was really successful. And that's what and if you know anything about Disney, you know where we're going with this. And this movie even had a reference to it, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, we actually didn't mention that joke. There is a Martin Short sings "Yo ho yo ho, a pirate's life for me" at one point during this movie.
Yeah. So we're going with the original Pirates of the Caribbean movie, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Dum dum da da dum dum da da dum dum da 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 dum.
Savvy?
Johnny Depp, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley. Come
Yeah.
on.
So yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean is our next episode. Stay tuned for the rest. We have a whole slew of pirate movies that we're going to be doing this month. And we hope that you stick around with us and get on board, literally. Get on the pirate ship. We're going to find treasure in these pirate movies. Special thanks to Tom Smith for allowing us to use his song, Talk Like a Pirate Day, for this month's episodes. Check out his website at tomsmithonline.com. Yeah, so until then, we will talk to you next week for Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Bye!
Bye!
Thank you for listening to Rewatching the Magic. We invite you to keep the magic going by joining the conversation online. Find us on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic, on Twitter at Rewatch the Magic, and of course, find all new episodes at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com. Until next time, remember, the magic is for everyone. It only stops if you let it.